Hi, welcome to Bake to the Future, the show where we examine what is happening in the baking industry with a future-focused lens. I'm Haley Blumenreich.
And I'm Katie Jewell.
Today, we are joined by Alicia Mosley, Vice President of Marketing at Ferrero, managing the Keebler Cookies, Cones, and Crusts branded portfolio. We will talk with Alicia about her professional journey, lessons learned along the way, how to give nostalgic brands a new life, how to scale marketing concepts, and more.
And a little bit of background on our guest today. Alicia has 25 years of marketing and general management experience in the consumer packaged goods industry. In her current role, she's responsible for leading the transformation of the iconic Keebler brand in the marketplace to drive long-term growth through strategic planning and consumer-led initiatives. Alicia has a passion for understanding the psyche of consumers, which I am excited to talk more about later. So I got that spit out. Alicia, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Haley and Katie, for that introduction. Happy to be here. And again, thank you to the American Bakers Association for this opportunity. Excited to talk about all the topics that Haley mentioned and a lot more.
For sure. And, we do like to start the interview off with a hard question, and we did not prep you for this one. So, think about it for a minute, but it should come right away. What's your favorite baked good?
Of course, cookies. How can I not say cookies? Leading the Keebler brand, it is truly my pleasure. And I absolutely liked cookies before, but now I love cookies working on the Keebler brand.
And I was thinking about this as I was thinking about this episode. Do you work for the elves or do they work for you?
What kind of question is that, Katie? I work for the elves. The elves keep me employed. Ernie as our chief elf certainly keeps us employed. No, the working with Keebler and on the brand, it's truly an honor to work on something as iconic as the Keebler brand. Keebler is known for many things, the elves, the magic, the delight that it brings for families. So having the ability to lead such an iconic brand brings me delight every day. It's what motivates me every day to get up, to work on such an iconic brand, working with the team, working with our in-tech partners to develop products that's going to delight consumers, but also bring moments of togetherness. Our brand ethos is all around making those small moments magical. So every day that I wake up, it just gives me joy to know that we're delivering something that's not just necessarily a consumer need, but something that's going to delight consumers on what would be just an ordinary day.
I'm curious about your background in the consumer packaged goods industry and how kind of maybe your past experiences compare to this one, because just hearing you talk about it, it just sounds magical and like exciting and very just heartwarming. So how could you kind of dive into your journey a little bit, and also how working on this brand has been different than maybe past?
Absolutely. So my journey didn't start actually in marketing. It actually started working in the medical industry. I realized very quickly that I wasn't necessarily cut out for that. So I made the pivot early in my career to understand what consumer packaged goods meant. So I started at Colgate-Palmolive, working on their pet food division on Science Diet. Realized that I liked marketing, but not necessarily that industry. Pet food was something that was growing at the time, but not of a personal interest. So I had a opportunity to go work for Tyson Foods. And that's really where my journey of understanding the consumer, obviously working on pet food, you can't talk to the consumer, but working in Tyson and working in food, you really start to understand the motivations, the drivers of what consumers are looking for in products that feed their families every day. So had the opportunity to work at Tyson Foods, launching the now over $100 million brand of the Anytizers brand. So Tyson Anytizers. So you think about chicken wings, nuggets, patties, tenders, strips. Those are very iconic products that are in consumers' homes every day. I also had the opportunity to work for a McDonald's supplier, again, staying in the food space, but expanding my understanding of the supply chain of food. So working for a McDonald's supplier gave me that opportunity. I then returned back to Tyson Foods to work on things like corporate marketing initiatives like the Olympics, but also working on general management experience, which gave me, again, more experience under the marketing umbrella. And then pivoting slightly to sales, working on customer marketing or shopper marketing. So understanding the full opportunity of marketing from innovation to general management, but also understanding the sales side of customer marketing. and then ultimately landed my career here at Ferrero working on the Keebler brand. So you can see I've spent a majority of my time, with the exception of Colgate, working in the food space. And what I started to realize and understand is that consumers are everything. It's important that you are delivering something that's going to be beneficial to them. They're putting food on the table for their families. And if they have a dollar to spend, you want to make sure that dollar is spent on your brand. And that was really what's driving me to understand the psyche of consumers, of if they have a dollar to spend, I want that dollar to be spent on my brand and giving them a reason to come back to continue to buy. So throughout my journey over the past 25 years and really focusing on food marketing has really been about understanding those motivations, behaviors, unmet needs for consumers to be able to get them to buy branded products, and specifically any brand that I'm working on or shepherding.
And you mentioned the psyche of consumers a few times, without giving away any sort of psych secrets. What are some things that kind of stand out to you, either with Keebler or with some of the other brands you've worked with?
So for me, and in my journey working on any brand, it's really about living and breathing that brand. So getting into the essence of the brand. You can't really be an effective marketer unless you are living and breathing the brand. So for me, in any brand that I've managed, it's always going to buy the product, eating the product, understand the history of the brand. And I've done that with every brand that I've ever been a part of. And it's really getting in touch with consumers. So going in their homes. One of the best things that I've experienced is when I've been able to go into the consumer's home, look in their fridge or refrigerator or freezer, and seeing what's in there and asking them questions and probing about what's in there. Why do they have these brands? What is it about those brands? So getting to the psyche of the consumer is not just the data that you read, but it's also walking a day in the life of that consumer. Everything from how it gets on the grocery list, meaning how they create their grocery list, going shopping with them, what do they do with the product when they get home, and then ultimately seeing them feed it to their family and seeing what are some of the reactions that they get from the entire family. So again, that's the psyche of the consumer, is what does that journey look like? Everything from getting on the list all the way to consumption.
And I know during the pandemic, a lot of nostalgic foods were coming up and becoming more popular. How would you say that it impacted your brand?
That's a great question. I had the opportunity to start on Keebler during the height of the pandemic. I couldn't have started at a better time, especially as a brand that was being integrated into our portfolio. Keebler was able to bring magic back to families. And you think about what people were doing during that time. They were hunkering down in the house. They were stuck. They would go to the grocery store. They were seeking things to bring connections and bringing back the nostalgia. They were spending more time together. And Keebler as a brand are what a lot of people were fed as kids. And now they have the opportunity to feed that to their children, and being able to have those moments of togetherness that I talked about. Keebler was able to play a critical and crucial part. And we saw a huge explosion in our business during that time, like other brands. But again, because Keebler is a nostalgic brand, there was a story behind it. You could talk about Ernie and the elves and the hollow tree. And we continue to build on that story. And I would encourage you to stay tuned, because we're doing more with that. We know that this is an iconic brand that has history, that has a lot of nostalgia. And so with that, we were able to communicate with consumers about the brand's history. And we're going to continue to do more of that. We know that there's an emotional connection that we can bridge with consumers.
And to put you on the spot a little bit, could you tell us a little bit about the history of the Keebler elves?
I'd say stay tuned, because we have a lot more coming to disclose that.
Okay. I like that answer. So
I don't want to steal away, kind of, as you talk about bringing back the nostalgia, also has to have the story. And so I don't want to give away how we're going to bring that story to life. But, if anyone knows, Ernie has always been our lead elf, and we have more to really talk about. The elves have a remarkable story, and we're just on the early parts of that journey to tell that story. So I'd say stay tuned.
I see. I like that teaser. That's a good one. So yeah, certainly looking forward to that. So thank you for not answering that question. So as we've been talking about, and we were just talking about the pandemic and how it affected consumers, but it also affected, I think, how brands and how manufacturers work with their partners. And what have you had to deal with over the last, well, how long have you been with Keebler, first of all? And then kind of how has the importance of partnerships kind of affected you?
So I've been with Ferrero, Keebler brand, for a year and a half, and coming on board, partnerships were something that we were evolving. So just to take a step back, we acquired the Keebler brand from Kellogg's in 2019. So I would say we're early on that journey, but we knew that partnerships were something that we needed to start doing more of in order to bring more awareness to the brand, but also trying to find partners that aligned with our brand ethos. So one of the first partnerships that we embarked upon was Make-A-Wish. And Make-A-Wish is under what I would consider the giving platform. And during the height of the pandemic, people were looking for ways to show value. And what better way than to think about tying together an altruistic brand like Make-A-Wish with Keebler and Magic, such a unique tie, again, tying back to the brand ethos. And I was excited to be part of that. And we granted a wish to a little girl who wanted to be queen of her city for the day. That was in Charlotte, North Carolina. Little girl was 7 years old, and all she wanted to do was just be in a Cinderella dress. And so when you talk about, the partnership, it's finding the brand or the property that aligns with your brand's ethos and your values. And for us, that was a natural fit with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And so when you're building those partnerships, it's really around, how do you make it exciting for consumers? And those consumers have to find value in what you're offering to them. And if they know that they're contributing something to a greater cause than just buying the brand and, lining the pockets of the manufacturer, but knowing that a portion of their proceeds are benefiting something greater, then you're going to be able to resonate with those consumers to be able to drive the partnership even stronger. So partnerships are really about finding the connections that are intrinsically linked between you and the values of that partner.
Yeah, you never want to have a partner where people say like, "Why is Keebler doing that?" It sounds right, it's a lot of thought and it's a lot of care that goes into making these partnerships happen.
Absolutely. And you have to understand, what does your brand stand for? So for me, I say I take the same approach in companies that I have chosen in my career to be a part of. Does the company align with my personal values? And I can say Tyson Foods, certainly still does, as does all the other companies. And certainly Ferrero, it's about having the integrity, but also having the, I would say, connections and values of partnership, of collaboration, wanting to do something meaningful for the environment, all of those things. And I think the brand, being a brand steward, you have to embody that as well. So look for those same values in your partners as well. I live those values in how I think about my career choices, how I shepherd or steward the brand, but also how we communicate with consumers.
And when you say partnerships, like I'm hearing you talk about philanthropic partnerships. Are there other types of partnerships that you all have?
Absolutely. So what you'll see in the marketplace, we've also partnered with Jurassic. So the movie that's coming out this summer, the blockbuster movie. So we also partner with the movie industry. So trying to identify things that draw connections with families. So going to the movies is something that ties to our brand ethos, meaning the moments of togetherness. You've heard my theme about togetherness. So movies is something that we know brings people together. So we're partnering with the Jurassic blockbuster movie. So that will be a partnership that we have this summer. Last summer, we did it with Space Jam. So that was a portfolio play that we had with our sugar counterparts, thinking about Trolley and Nerds and Laffy Taffy on that side of the business at Ferrara. And then this winter, we will also do gaming. So again, another family-oriented connection partnership. So stay tuned to hear about our exciting gaming partnership. So what we've identified are what we call strategic dig sites that align strategically with the Keebler brand so that we can continue to build those partnerships that align with our brand.
So you just rattled off a whole lot of big marketing concepts. And I want to kind of talk a little bit about how you take, idea to this grand thing. But I'm also wondering, a lot of our members, so 80% of ABA's members are actually small to medium bakery companies. So they're not these huge, gigantic things that have the manpower or the brand recognition and all that good stuff that you guys have. So what are some tips, tricks, ideas that you have on how companies that aren't this massive international brand, how can
Right.
they kind of take some of the ideas that you have and scale it to them?
Absolutely. I haven't always worked on big brands. I've had my fair share of working on small brands that I consider scrappy, no different than, let's say, a local company. For the smaller companies that are looking to make those strategic partnerships, I'd say start local. It doesn't have to be something big in scale. Start within their own community. We're doing Make-A-Wish. Make-A-Wish, yes, it's a national program, but that's not to say that smaller companies couldn't find their local chapter and work with the local chapter and grant a wish, or starting with Ronald McDonald. So start small, start within their own backyard, finding an organization that aligns with them, and they can scale from there. The example I'll use, I think we talked about it early on, was around the Chicago Marathon. And it was around a small, I think it was an insurance company, unrecognized to anyone, but I remember the name. It's Jackson Insurance Company. And it's because they talked about starting small and wanting to do something. They had been participating. So start participating for those smaller companies. Start participating in something and, kind of crawl and then walk your way to becoming a sponsor. Start small, build the connections, build the relationship, understand, does this align with you as a company, as a brand? And then you can scale from there. You don't have to start big. You start small and scale what's appropriate for you to align with your brand, but also to make sure that you're investing what's appropriate for you, what you want to get out of it. And then set yourself with some key performance indicators. Are you trying to build clientele? Are you trying to build sales? Are you trying to build awareness? And that way you can understand what are you getting out of the partnership, and establishing those key performance indicators that you can measure to see if it's making the impact that you set out for it to make.
So over your 25 years, I'm wondering, when you started working in marketing for brands, it was still kind of an analog world, right? So I'd imagine, like, where you're at in your career, you've seen this transition and been kind of like probably on the front end of all of these digital transformations for marketing and
Right.
communications and all this. Kind of, what are some things that have either scared you or you're like looking forward to, like, social media, the metaverse, all of these crazy things that I am also trying to get my brain wrapped around. So what are some things that have kind of, that you'd like to talk about that you've seen from this analog to digital transformation?
Absolutely. Marketing is a very dynamic discipline, and that's why I love it. And it's cutting edge. Everywhere you turn, there's always something unique and different. When I started, as you said, it was very analog. TV was king. If you weren't running a 30-second TV spot, you were behind the times. As time has evolved, it's now, are you digital? Is it bite-sized content? So now taking that 30-second spot on what we call linear TV now has to be scaled down to a 15-second spot, but not on linear TV. It has to be what you call on OTT, or over-the-top TV, or full episode player, meaning, interrupting Hulu or Netflix. And then from there, 15 seconds is too long. Now, how do you get it down to even further bite-sized content, down to 6 seconds? And oh, by the way, can you even create shorter form videos that are on TikTok? So it's always evolving and changing, and the consumer doesn't want to be interrupted in their daily lives. So now you have to find a way to integrate into their daily lives. So going back to the analog discussion, TV was the interruption. The commercial was the interruption. Now people are looking for integration. So think about your own personal life, from interruption to integration. A TV commercial now is an interruption, but if that content is woven seamlessly into your life or integrated, it becomes relevant. Also, we used to, think about TV. It was marketing to the masses. It's no longer marketing to the masses. Tailor the message for me. So again, thinking about a funnel, visually thinking of the funnel, it used to be everything for everyone. Now it's personalize it just for me. So knowing who your consumer is, this is why I love marketing, knowing what the consumer needs and messaging to them at the right time, at the right moment with the right product will only benefit you, because you want to capture them at that moment of receptivity.
And so
at the highest moment of receptivity.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm also was old school TV, like producer who's kind of like meandered my way
Right.
through,
I saw
through
that.
my
Yes.
career too. So I like, talking to people of the same kind of era, because, whatever generation you want to call us, we're kind of like the in between. But so you're talking about this reaching the consumer where they're at on the platform they're at that time, with the right message, with the right product, all of these things. So what are you doing then? Or can you talk about, I buy my groceries on my phone and they're delivered to my house. Like, what is that next frontier that you're trying to figure out?
Right. So when you think about, so that's a great example of how you have to seamlessly integrate into a consumer's life and understand what they're doing in their daily lives. So no longer are people making physical lists, they're making digital lists. So as a marketer, how do you get on that digital list? It's when you're making the list. If I see that you have cookies on your digital list, how do I now serve you with an advertisement or a product that may meet your need based on your prior shopping behaviors, based on what else I see in your cart? So finding similarities. So I wouldn't say that's cutting edge, but it's really understanding where are you in that journey as a consumer to receive my messages. But also from a technology standpoint is finding the enablers to be able to communicate to you. So where are you? Are you an Amazon user or are you using the app from the grocery store? I have to be at all points of interception in your shopping journey.
And so are there those bleeding edge things that you're looking at? You said that, shopping via like your phone and all of that. Yes, you have all the technologies to try and help make sure that you are where the consumers are. But what are some of these bleeding edge things?
So I would say, going back to the gaming example, how do you integrate product messaging and, buy now in something like a gaming app? That to me would be cutting edge. People are gaming, they're eating. How do you make that interaction seamless that they can go ahead and click it? Or if you're using your, I'd call it just voice device. If you're using a voice device, how do we make sure that our brand is the brand that comes up when you say, I want to buy cookies, as opposed to any cookie? You want to make sure that when they say cookies, are you talking Keebler Cookies? So I want to make sure that my brand is always top of mind for the consumer. So making those points of connection, whether it's voice, if it's mobile, if it's gaming, how do I seamlessly integrate? Again, it's around integration. So cutting edge is about finding those moments of connections that is integrating into the consumer's life and not interrupting their life. If you notice, that's important. I don't want to be a disruptor. You want to disrupt to an extent, but you also want to be relevant in that disruption or relevant with that integration.
As you're describing this, I feel like I'm like envisioning the future, but a lot of it is like happening now. And I think that my first thought is always, a thought that I had as a kid a lot, which was like, can I just smell it through the TV? And I kind of feel like
awesome.
Hearing you talk, I'm like,
are we chocolate cookies?
Are we there? Are we almost there to smelling through our phones?
Oh, I've seen hints of that. I'm not quite sure what the enabler would have to be, but that would be awesome. Freshly baked cookies,
yes,
coming through your phone, and you could click to buy, and it would be delivered. You think about the age of who would have thought that something like food delivery services, where you can order food 24 hours a day, and how do you bring that experience, to life through your phone? Same way, like a freshly baked cookie smell, and then you could click it, and then it could be delivered. So who knows?
Yeah, I'm getting all excited because I just feel like the future is now is my main takeaway from everything you're saying.
It changes every day. Like I said, marketing is a very dynamic discipline, as is technology. And so marketers always have to understand what technology enables in order for us to reach that consumer. And Keebler's no different. I mean, how could we have Ernie maybe show up on your phone and say, are you ready for cookies? And cookies now, and they just appear, right? The magic. That's what Keebler's all about, is bringing the magic. So I'd love to see that cutting edge technology led by Keebler and magic.
Yeah, it's kind of like being the startup within, being able to kind of foster this nostalgic brand into the next generation, into the next century and millennia is, right. I mean, it's got to be stressful though too, right? Like, I mean,
it's a fine line you have to play with nostalgia. Because nostalgia can also be perceived as old. And what you want to do is you want to extrapolate what was unique and differentiated about it, but bring the modernness to it. So Ernie and the Elves, how do you tell that story that can resonate with kids, that it's all about magic, and make kids, think through the imagination of what Ernie is, not what Ernie was, but what Ernie is, and bring him present tense as opposed to talking about him in the past tense. And so nostalgia has to have a little bit of foot of the love and the care that goes into the craftsmanship of the cookies. You want to preserve that, but also bring the modernity of the brand look, the brand offering, all of those things to the 21st century, if you will. So you keep the good, but you also modernize it for the way consumers are behaving. And some of the things I'll talk about are, some of the trends that we're seeing. If you take the packaging, for example, a trend is making sure it's resealable. Who would have thought about resealable 25 years ago? It wasn't quite a thing. Or if you think about clean ingredient statements, and what I mean by clean is removing high fructose corn syrup. I'm sure most of us grew up on high fructose corn syrup, but that's no longer a thing that consumers want in their products. So making sure that you're meeting consumers' expectations in a way that's modern and that gives them the reason to buy you, versus back in the day, it was all things for everyone. So again, going back to the customization, make it personal for me. Are you meeting those consumer expectations in a way that's relevant? So packaging, product offerings. People want texture. People want indulgence. They want permissibility. They don't want you to just offer them a cookie. Does it come with an experience? One of the exciting launches we just launched for Keebler that I was part of is the Dip'ems launch. And that is, all about the food experience, taking a fudge stripe cookie, again, that iconic cookie, but again, with a s'mores type dip that you can dip and have that experiential interaction play with your food. So again, still taking the nostalgic brand, taking the goodness of it with fudge stripes, but again, bringing it to the 21st century with how consumers are interacting with their food today.
And customizing it too, because you could have a whole lot of frosting or a whole lot of the dip on there, or not a lot.
Right. Dip a little, dip a lot.
No, and I think that some of the phrases you just used in describing, modernizing a nostalgic brand and modernizing kind of that nostalgic, like hominess, that memory. We talk to our members, and a lot of our members, people remember these brands. They remember this bakery. They remember driving by the bakery, and they have all these memories. And so some of what you're talking about, I feel like a lot of our members could really resonate with and be able to take some of these concepts and think about how they could use it for them too.
Right. Like I said, it's really, when you think about nostalgia, it's about living, breathing, bringing it to life, bringing all of the things that made it the brand that it was, and then bringing it to the current day, but preserving some of those values or some of those memories, and you want to pass those down. And I would make it similar to baking chocolate chip cookies at home. Everybody has their signature recipe. Well, Keebler and the Elves, they have their signature recipe. Sometimes you have to tweak that recipe to meet whatever the need is. And so for us at Keebler, it's about preserving, but bringing the story to life for all consumers. We're all about that emotional connection and bringing families and kids and everyone together at moments that they least expect. For an ordinary day that just may not be what you want, can a cookie make it better?
I think the answer is always yes to that.
Yes, and yes, right?
Absolutely. I think as we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or pieces of advice to other marketing leaders in the baking industry?
Yeah, I would say, for anyone, first of all, for any marketers, follow your passion. I would say I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't follow this as a passion. And what I mean by passion, it was my passion about the consumer and the psyche. I've spent a lot of time talking to you guys about what it meant for me, understanding the consumer and their motivations and behavior. So my advice would be for any marketers to follow your passion and live it and breathe it. Know that your voice or opinion matters when you're thinking about the consumer. At the end of the day, we're all consumers of every product that's in our home. So it's not that you have to think any differently. It's always understanding what was your motivation to buy something. So as a marketer, know your audience, extrapolate what's good from the product or the brand, have passion about it, and just continue to push forward, be bold, take chances. And then for the industry, I would say it's not static, it's very dynamic. And that's why we're always, why we're all here is because of the dynamicism of marketing and the consumer and the technology and bringing all of those forces together.
And so speaking of passion, in our conversations that we've had before this recording, you also spoke about, mentorship and how you you're obviously very passionate about your job. What are some other kind of professional passions that you have, either working with others or mentoring, or do you have mentors that you've looked up to that have helped get you to where you are today?
Absolutely. So when it comes to career, for me, it's always important that you have multiple mentors. It's not just a mentor. Someone gave me the advice, and I live it today, which is you should always have 3 mentors in your life. One who's about 5 years older than you. And that person is able to kind of pave the way and show you, how to go and what the next steps are within your industry. Someone that's about 10 years older than you. They're able to have lived a little bit more life and can see things and guide you. And then that third mentor needs to be someone completely out of your industry that can balance you and give you outside perspective. And so having different mentors to serve different, I would say, capacities in your life is so important to keep you well-rounded and well-versed, because having one mentor sometimes or someone within your industry will give you what I call insider tips, but may not see the bigger picture or the bigger implication. Someone outside is going to give you a very broad perspective. They're going to open your mind, your aperture to see things. Wow, I didn't see things that way. So I continue to live through that every day and taking bold chances. That outside mentor is going to tell you to take bold chances. I will tell you, the position I'm in now, I probably wouldn't have considered it when I was approached, but someone said, you have to take this chance. It costs you nothing. And I couldn't be more delighted to be part of the Ferrero family, working on, the largest cookie brand. It gives me great pride and pleasure to lead the Keebler brand every single day. So and also, being a female and a person of color is really delightful to me to lead this brand. In my career, I've taken chances. I've listened to my mentors and been bold. And I say that because I realize there's a whole generation behind me that's also looking up to someone the way I looked up to others in this industry, but outside the industry. So I take it personal to make sure that I'm leading, guiding, directing, and mentoring at all levels.
Well, I think that's a fantastic way to wrap things up, Alicia. Thank you so much for all your words of wisdom and your look into the future. I know I'm excited to see what happens with Ernie and his buddies.
That's right.
And I'll find out because you're not going to tell me right now, and that's fine. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you again, Haley, for this opportunity.
And our listeners can let us know what they thought of the show by emailing hello@americanbakers.org or leave us a voicemail at baketothefuture.org. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts: Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, or Ghana.